Here we are, 27th of April. We're on the show and go. I just thought it'd be worth touching on today. Today's the Anzac Day public holiday here in Australia. I imagine it's quite similar in New Zealand. Anzac Day was Saturday, so take a moment lest we forget all the soldiers and everyone that fought for us to have the freedom that we have today. Moving on, we've got Scope in the house today. He's been missing since Friday, probably around 1 p.m. We've found him. He's back in the kennel. How you doing, Scope?
Yeah, look, boys, I'm feeling a bit rough. I treated myself on the weekend. I went on a mini little bender after what happened on Friday afternoon. So, with the draft in particular, it rattled me. And I'm sure do you want to get into more detail?
We will touch on it. You've got your jersey on, so you're feeling a little bit better, I think. You've got is that your Rodgers?
Yeah, I'm just showing the support to 12. Our quarterback, hopefully, is there for a long time. It's Jordan Love will have his time, but hopefully that's five years away.
Yeah. Well, Jackson, how you doing, mate? Did you get up to much over the weekend?
No, I'm good, mate. Didn't get up to much over the weekend. We've only got 2 more days left of lockdown here, and then we're away. We're into level 3, which is kind of our next tier, which means we can extend our bubbles. Mine can go from just the missus and her cousin to 2 more people. So,
good. Cheering.
Mate, good to me. Yeah. So, I get to pick wisely. But no, it's good, mate. I did a bit more vintage work on the weekend and kind of same with Scope, just digesting the draft and running up some little fantasy boards so I can have a nosy. So let's look into it.
Yeah, well, Scope, do you want to start on your Packers, mate? Interesting move to Jordan Love, quarterback move. I think you were touching on that they needed some depth out wide, and from looking at the Pat McCarthy show and everything else, I've tried to do a bit of homework on it so I can compete with the scope and my knowledge. It was a position that they haven't drafted an offensive person since Rodgers. Is that right?
Yeah, so I didn't realise it went that far back until I think Rodgers himself had said it. I actually don't mind that if they started looking towards the quarterback as well. That's one big thing. But for me, it wasn't Jordan Love, and it wasn't Jordan Love in the first round. Even though I've declared 4 teams can win the Super Bowl, we were 1 game away in the NFC Championship game last year. And we could have done with a few pieces on defense. I remember at the time when they traded up, I was like, I jumped out of the chair because I thought we were gonna pick up Patrick Queen, who would have been a nice pick. And getting into some draft stuff, fucking Ravens killed it again. They just sat in their position. They picked the right players. Teams always seem to overthink it, and they get some really good players again, and sort of like solidify for me that top 4 spot that I picked them at. With the Jordan Love pick, it's just I'm not a big fan. I hope I'm proved wrong, but yeah, the Patrick Mahomes comparisons, I just don't see it. I know he dressed up like him at the Senior Bowl. Maybe that's it. But yeah, he was going to be there at 30 as well. So
yeah, the whole move up, that's the bit that's confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, I know we only gave away a 4th. So at the end of the day, if he ends up panning out and being our franchise quarterback, it looks like a genius move. But yeah, at the moment, I just can't see it. I felt like we had a few more needs on the defensive side of the footy, and then we could have come back. I wasn't a fan of Denzel Mims that they were mocking to us at 30. I thought he was sort of like a poor man's DK Metcalf. So I wanted him in the 2nd or 3rd round if we looked at him. But I wouldn't have loved Patrick Queen at inside linebacker for us, and then or maybe someone like that Ross Blacklock to help out Kenny Clark in the middle. And just we had a few more pieces that I think we needed at the Packers, and to sort of take advantage of this 4 to 5 year window that we've got with Rodgers.
Yeah, Jackson, mate, we had a bit of banter in the chat. Scope was very sad. You sort of rubbed a little bit of salt in.
At his expense, but no, it was good. It was a good day, actually. I actually, before I sort of get into it, Scope, I wanted to ask you, mate, the move up, which is what confused everyone, mainly because they jumped a bunch of teams that have quarterbacks. They jumped a bunch of teams that clearly weren't going to get Jordan Love. So am I right in thinking the only thing I can think is maybe the Packers got word that someone below them was going to make a jump, and maybe like what world, why would you jump up for Jordan Love if no one above you is going to take him? Surely someone below was having a sniff.
Yeah, that's why they do it, mate, because they get the mail that someone's going to jump. It's a bit like Daniel Jones last year when the Giants drafted him at 6. Yeah, because they had more. They had picks later. I think they had a pick at 17 where they picked up Dexter Lawrence or something like that. The kid from Clemson. They've obviously got the mail that someone was going to jump them because one thing that stood out to me in particular was how excited Matt LaFleur and Goot looked celebrating after the pick, and I was just like,
they got their guy.
It looked like that. So, the writing could be on the wall. I think Rodgers is definitely around next year, but his contract becomes a little bit more tradable next year with the cap space. It's still going to be a big chunk of dead cap, but I think maybe Rodgers might have 1 or 2 years left max, and then that'll be it for him, I reckon.
Yeah, look, the whole Jordan Love situation, I bought into the hype initially watching his film. He looked like a mobile gunslinger who could move the ball downfield. When you start to really look at his numbers, I know he had a new offensive coordinator this year and a bunch of freshmen and sophomore receivers, but he was just missing guys. And that pocket presence and that awareness downfield where guys like, I know you don't want to compare him to Tua and Herbert and Burrow and that, but they look like NFL quarterbacks. And he is such a raw prospect that if you're going to draft a quarterback, I don't mind it being drafted as a 3 to 4 year plan. But how often does that happen? I know the Packers did it with Rodgers, but by all accounts, Favre was a bit of a cunt to him back then. I can imagine Rodgers is going to be the same. There's no way he's going to be giving him all the tricks of the trade to come and be a successor. So it was a bizarre pick. I would have loved to have seen them. It was such a deep wide receiver draft. I wouldn't have even minded them taking a receiver in the first round. There was so much talent there. Anyone on the defensive side of the ball, fucking take one of the corners that went in the second round. Jordan Love was always going to fall. And if he didn't, you had guys like Jalen Hurts. And if you wanted that sort of mobile quarterback, they were there. They're still there, day 3 and 4. So bizarre pick. I'm with you. I hope he ends up being Patrick Mahomes 2.0 and the Packers go on to win 1,000 Super Bowls. But you've already got that Rodgers, LaFleur fucking, uneasiness, and this is only going to if you want to destroy a locker room, you when you've got a quarterback on a 3-year deal.
Well, what about the external media? Surely that's the one question they're just going to keep getting. And then Rodgers has a bad game, then it comes back to this as well. Like, it's almost unnecessary. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah. With a guy like Jordan Love, those questions are definitely going to be there. I don't think he's going to have a bad game, but there's already been questions about Rodgers' leadership and his relationships with some of his teammates in the past. I think there's reports that he's already reached out to Jordan Love straight away.
Yeah, he did.
There was a report that he'd done that straight away. I sort of felt like he was going to do that because of the way Brett Favre treated him.
PR as well.
He's always sort of got along with his quarterback room pretty well. But he's never had a threat like this in the room before. I think the closest would be probably when they traded for Deshaun Kaiser to come over from the Browns. They gave away a second-round pick for him a couple of years ago. That obviously didn't pan out. But it's always seemed like he was pretty close with like Brett Hundley, Matt Flynn, some of these other guys that were sort of, knocking on the door, had a couple of good pre-seasons, or, Matt Flynn in particular stepped in, had a big game 1 year against the Pats, I think, and then he ended up getting a contract to go to Seahawks, and then that whole Russell Wilson thing happened. So yeah, I hope he takes him under his wing and looks after him. But just as a Packers fan and wanting to win, I just didn't think it was the right decision. But I could, like I said, 5 years down the lane, he could prove us all wrong.
Who knows? What about the other teams that did well and who didn't do well in the draft, boys? Jackson.
Yeah, I had my little bit different. I had the team that I thought, I'll name a couple. I thought Detroit did really well. They got the gun corner. Is it Jeff Okudah or something like that?
Yeah, Okudah. With 3.
They all had pretty high praise on. They got him with that 3rd or 4th slot there, wherever they picked. And then I thought the best running back in the draft was DeAndre Swift, and they got him sort of one of those first picks in the 2nd round there on day 2. So I thought they did really well in terms of drafting for need. If they're going to stick with Stafford, they didn't need a quarterback. So they got the best outside defender they could get, which was Okudah, and they got, in my opinion, the next best offensive player, which was, in terms of running back with Swift, because he's one of those sort of poor man's Christian McCaffrey in that he can kind of do everything. He's not a downhill, smash the guts, hit a hole and burst through, but he can catch passes. He's light on his feet. He can read, he's got great awareness when he's inside those tackles there. So I thought they did really well, but my winner was the Eagles, mate, the Philly Eagles. As much as it hurts me not to pick my beautiful Jets, I thought the Eagles did the best, mate, just because they were able to get one of the top receivers in old Rager out of TCU, which gives Carson Wentz more weapons. And then more importantly, they got my boy Jalen Hurts. So I've been high on Jalen Hurts for a long time. I always knew he was going to be a round 2 pick, but I don't.
Scope special. You always knew that.
Special, there you go. I don't buy into this idea that he's going to be a Taysom Hill and a bit of a Swiss Army knife that you plug in. I think he's a legit backup quarterback. I think anyone who Alabama picks as their quarterback, I know, he was playing on one of the all-time great defenses and under the best coach and all that, but he was the Alabama quarterback for a reason. Like, he can throw the fucking ball. He's got his shortcomings, absolutely, and people look at just the fact that he can run, that means he's a running quarterback. Well, so is Lamar Jackson. These days that doesn't mean anything. And you look at what he did at Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma often balloons quarterback stats because they throw the ball so fucking much, but Jalen Hurts had a very good last 2 years. Take out the game where he was sub for Tua, he had an incredible college career. So him coming in under an injury-prone Carson Wentz, I think they've got a gun backup quarterback at a steal. They're no longer paying Nick Foles through the roof. They've got a great wide receiver in the boy out of TCU. And then they picked up Devon Taylor, the linebacker out of Colorado as well, in the 3rd round, who everyone had really high praise on. So he's very raw, but super athletic. So I thought the Eagles did the best, mate. If I had to pick a loser, it goes without saying, I think it was the Giants. I don't know why they always think they're outsmarting someone. They picked, a good offensive lineman, but not the best offensive lineman. They picked, a good safety, but probably not the best safety. I don't know what the Giants do. They keep proving me wrong, whether it's Daniel Jones or Saquon or whatever, but they always seem to be trying to outsmart people instead of just doing what you said before, Scope, like Baltimore or the Saints, where they just pick the right players every time. They pick the guy who's, next best man up. The Giants always try and seem to be outthinking people. So if I had to pick a winner, I'd say Philly. Loser for me was the Giants, mate.
What about you, Scope?
Yeah, sorry, boys. Yeah, I think for me, I thought the top teams really did well. Like I said, the Ravens just sat there. They picked Patrick Queen at that position, which feels a big need for them. I only really speak about the first 2 rounds because, like I've said in the past, I sort of look at the top 50 players, top 60 players of a draft, and then once it gets down to rounds 3 and 4, then you start getting players with injury concerns or maybe some character issues that drop into those spots. So it's hard to really, it's like any of it. It's hard to pick who's going to kill it. But they got Patrick Queen in the first, and then I think they went and got J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State in the 2nd round, who's going to, if not compete and become a nice little rotation player of Mark Ingram, eventually take over that spot over the next couple of years for the Ravens. And yeah, they just did a really good job, and they picked up a few more nice pieces later on. San Francisco, they only had a couple of picks in the 1st round, but they pretty much filled that spot that they traded away the DeForest Buckner pick to pick up. I'm having a blank on his name, the other defensive tackle, the number 2 off the board. And they picked up Brandon Ayuk, who I really like, the wide receiver. I wanted him to drop to the Packers. I was really hoping he dropped to the Packers. So if he was still available around that 30, or if we traded up to the pick, I would have really liked him. So they replaced DeForest Buckner and Emmanuel Sanders with 2. They're not up to their standard, obviously, because they're still young players, but they're cheaper options, and they didn't have many needs. So I thought those 2 teams in particular did really well. And Packers, I felt like Packers was the worst draft. So apart from the Packers, I can't lie. Even with our pick, like the AJ Dillon pick, I said to the boys in the group chat, and I'm also being very wary. We've got our dynasty draft tonight, so I'm trying not to
give too much.
I'm trying not to say too much. I know this is going to come out before that, but with the AJ Dillon pick, I said to the boys, I said, you know what? We're a running team. This is about a week ago. Don't be surprised if we draft a running back in the 1st or 2nd round. But him, AJ Dillon, I just didn't see it coming. I thought we could have got him in the 3rd or 4th as well. So it was just our draft all over for me. It was just a big L. I'll give it, if they do grading systems, I'll give it an F. There's nothing to get excited about. I've had money on the Packers every year from when I won my first Super Bowl, bet on them in the first year, and I won't be putting any money on them next year.
Ooh,
Awesome.
that's a scope special. No money for the Packers.
So load up on the Packers then.
Oh, fuck. What about, it was the talk for the two QBs, Tua or Burrow? Burrow obviously goes first. Tua went fifth. Is that right, Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone to Miami. Who's got the better deal there?
For me, look, me and Scope spoke about this beforehand. I just, side by side, I think Tua's a better quarterback. I know Burrow had an unbelievable season. Just purely on when I watched them play, when I watched Tua fully fit and when I watched Burrow fully fit, I think Tua is a better player. So I'm going to say he's better placed to win. I know the biggest thing is Cincinnati, obviously. I don't know why they keep getting such a bad rep. They haven't been they're not the fucking Browns or the Giants. Like, they haven't been horrible for that long. They've been okay.
They just haven't won a playoff game.
Just haven't won a playoff game in a long time. But they've been competitive. Andy Dalton was all right. AJ Green's all world. Like, they're not terrible. So Burrow is probably in a better position, and he's going to be a day one starter. Tua's not. So if the question is who's going to have a better, 2020, 2021, it's definitely going to be Burrow because he's going to be playing. We don't know whether Tua's going to redshirt or sit and then come in halfway through the year or whatever. But if I'm looking ahead and I'm getting the scope crystal ball out, I think Tua ends up having the Hall of Fame better career. And I think Burrow's going to be very much sort of an Alex Smith type. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback for a very long time. I don't think he's going to be great. I don't quite see it. I love him. I love the cigar and I love the confidence. I love how after the semi-final they ask him, what's the championship game going to look like? He said, we've already won. Like, I love that confidence. But for me, I just think Tua has the intangibles. Tua has the arm talent. Tua has the presence to have a better career.
What are your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, me and the boys get into it probably a little bit more heated than what me and Jackson talk about it on the group chat. The good thing is, at the end of the day, we probably won't know until 5 years anyway. That's what I said. I've declared quarterbacks before and being wrong, and I've declared them and being right. But at the end of the day, we don't know until the end of that rookie contract. You look at, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota going 1 and 2 4 years ago, and now they're on different teams. So you've got to really wait until that first rookie contract finishes up. One thing I will say, the way that Miami played it was fucking unreal. To get their quarterback at 5, they sent out all those smoke screens about trading up for a tackle, wanting to move to 3, wanting to take Herbert. Like, they told everyone they wanted to take Herbert. They let those rumors. That got me. I had that big bet on. It wasn't a skate special. It was more of a roughie. But I rode that all the way into potentially that big collect because it didn't stop. Those rumors kept on coming in for 2.5 weeks. So they did a good job. They got sorry about the construction there in the background, boys. I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah, they got their guy. They got their guy at 5, and despite what I think about him, I think he's going to be a solid to top echelon. I can see him becoming a top 20 quarterback for a long time. That's where I see Tua. I didn't think he's ever going to blow you away. I don't think he's going to compete with the best guys. Whereas I think Joe Burrow in particular, I feel like he can be a top 10 quarterback in the next 2 years.
What about situation in terms of, so Tua comes in, mate, and I've been on high on him before, more of a laugh, but I do rate him as a quarterback. So he comes in under Ryan Fitzmagic. Fitz knows how to play quarterback, right? So in terms of veteran guys, you look at Tua under Fitzpatrick versus Love under Rodgers. Which person strikes you as the one who's more likely to sort of help you out and give you all the tools of Fitzpatrick's been there, done that. He's been around. He knows how to play quarterback. He's a risk taker, which is why he's kind of had the backup career that he has. But I think for Tua to come in and learn off a guy like Fitzpatrick, I don't think there could be a better situation for him, to be honest. Whereas Burrow's going to come in, I know he handles pressure extremely well, but Burrow's going to be the man in Cincinnati today, from the day he arrives at the facility. Whereas Tua's kind of the injury and the fact that they have Fitzpatrick, he's going to have this cruisy sort of come in, play when you're ready, learn sort of vibe. I think of the two, if I had to pick, I'm a coward, so if I had to pick which situation I'd want to be in more, I'd want to be in Miami.
Oh, yeah. We'll disagree on this again. I think I'd want to learn behind the better quarterback. pick up what he does, how he goes about it, even if it's going to be prickly. It's a person like, even if you don't get along personality-wise, there's a brother Norm's in the back.
Bins.
Yeah, Kennel was a bit dirty after the weekend. We both treated ourselves in different. And we had a good crack, didn't we? Anyway, off topic. Off topic. I'd want to learn from the better quarterback, mate. Like Fitzpatrick's been around a while, and he'll be a good mate to Tua. You're right. I feel like he'll help him progress and teach him everything he can. But those teachings are limited. Like he's a bit of a gunslinger. He's not all that accurate. He brings that hype, which is good. But Tua seems like a laid back dude. For me, I'd want to be sitting just watching what Rodgers does, even if he's not talking to me. It's like Rodgers talks about the 5 days. I was listening to a podcast on him last week on AJ Hawk, and he used to have to write up the game plans and go over the defenses, and he reckons like Brett Favre didn't even probably read them. But the fact that he learned so much during those times, because you'd have to write up the scheme and write up a little playbook, and then just sitting there and the way he conducted himself in meetings and all those sorts of things. I think those things will be second to none for a guy like Jordan Love.
Well, there's definitely a few specials amongst that chat, boys. But the one special that got accidentally withheld from the world, and much to Scope's delight. So on Saturday it was, I sent through a bit of mail on a horse. And I missed it. He said, put this on sports. And I didn't see that. I was out doing a bushwalk, so I wasn't really looking through my phone. Jackson jumped on it. Did you jump on it, Scope, or you just let it ride?
Yeah, we had it.
You had it?
Normally had it, yeah.
And it came through, didn't it?
On it? Yeah. And
what was it paying?
Too. It was fucking a good horse.
Yeah?
It was paying, I got on it at, I think, $4 it paid.
Yeah, that's what the screenshot was around that.
Yeah, it sat 3 wide the whole way. It had a bit of cover, but it sat 3 wide, and generally you don't win from there. Nashua Willer, I think, was aboard. He got after it. He must have known that a few people were on it, that it was a nice special, because he gave it a hammering in the last couple of hundred. So, it was a very good win.
So what's the move from here? Do we disguise ISIS specials as Scope specials? What's the move, Scope? You need to come up with a good one to come back. What's doing? You had a good day on Saturday, though.
The punters don't want winners. The punters aren't in it at this stage now to get winners. They want to see the Scope keep losing. They love the degenerates. They want to lose their fat, and they want to fight back with the Scope later in the afternoon. They know the Scope does his best work in the shadows, and even though I don't give them winners, what I do is I give them the opportunity to fight back, and that's what a degenerate loves.
He gives stories as well. ISIS specials they're just cold, they're cold tips, and they come in. We don't want money, we want storylines. Yeah, so exactly. I got on it, and then didn't end up posting it. So he was filthy about that. But so ISIS 1 of 1, but in terms of storytelling, mate, he's 0-1.
0-1.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
and who knows what would have happened? Like once you put your name to something and it gets out,
I know, maybe.
Universe,
once it's out there,
that extra weight, geez.
Keep it in the chat.
Some of those tips, it feels like Isaiah Simmons, those few bets and Caleb on Chase. I felt the weight of the world on those two bets. So,
side note before we move on from draft, how dope was Isaiah Simmons in his draft interview when they sort of said to him, "Oh mate, you play a bit of linebacker, you play a bit of safety, you play corner, you're a bit of a tweener. What are you going to do when you get to the NFL? Where are you going to play?" And he just goes, "Defense." Just like cold face. He's a stud, man. I'm so looking forward to him.
Moving on from the specials, May 28 reaffirmed as the start date. Are we a chance, boys? There's been a bit of mail about trying to protect the players, isolate them in obviously quite strictly. Fines if you're not following the protocol and whatnot. Jackson, do you reckon it's a move? We've got 10 minutes here, boys, by the way.
No, just yell out and ask Normie if they're going to get a run. I don't know. Nah,
he's having his wheat bix, it sounds like.
He's treating. What are you treating yourself to there, Norms? Just right. Yeah, he's got a bit of just right cereal. I haven't had that since I was 12 years old.
Breakfast of champions.
Look, I think May 28th is a bit optimistic still. Mainly just because the Warriors aren't there yet. As soon as the Warriors get on the ground and start training, we'll be away. But I'm growing more and more optimistic about this whole thing. I I think we're getting sport back, and we're getting sport back soon. You know, we see the NBA going back to training. You mentioned the EPL boys starting to get back to training next week. As soon as the footy players can start training again together, which I think is the 4th, so that's next week. I think we'll be away, mate. I don't see any reason why, you know, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, put all the restrictions in place. That's what they've had the last 4 weeks to do. So if they can do all that and they get everything right and tight, mate, let's play some footy. I think May 28th is, although I still see it as optimistic, I still think it's a real chance. If not after that, the following week we're on.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I think as well. What do you reckon, Scope?
Yeah, I'm with you, boys. I didn't really think it was a chance when they first announced it. The more, you know, you hear information not only regarding footy, but certain changes in society over here, you see sort of people like things are just becoming a little bit more relaxed. So, yeah, I think, even if it's not May 28th, I can see it sort of happening halfway through June, or a June 30th date being the absolute latest at this point. So, yeah, I hope that if everything keeps trending in the right ways with regards to like what's happening in the hospitals and the death rate and all those sorts of things. Yeah, I think we could be a realistic chance here, boys.
I think.
Scope, what about What about the idea about playing Origin 3 weeks back to back after,
so I was about to bring
after
up.
the grand final? Does that sound? Sorry, mate, I've stolen your thunder.
Yeah.
Does that sound? Were you, not a Kiwi native like you are, and you're an Origin hopeful? We might just have one eating wheat bix behind you there, but does that sound like something that you're looking forward to in terms of playing it Wednesday? It sounds sick to me, and to mix it up and just give us something different, I really rate the idea. What do you reckon?
I hadn't heard that before. Probably normally would be the better one to ask if he was, still available. Origin back to back at the end of the year, after the year, after the GF. What do you think? Normally reckons it's grouse. There you go.
Yeah.
Brother Norm played in Origin 3 last year.
Is that a Scope scoop? That's a Scope scoop. It's come from.
I'm declaring Norms as in all 3 of those if they go ahead. By the way, yeah. The crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. He said with regards to the crowds, like if that's by that point they've got a full stadium of players, whereas NRL potentially you could play with any people there, but you need the crowd there. That's a must for Origin. So
how do you reckon they do it?
Point from Brother Norms.
Do you reckon because obviously it's quite easy to like put in a performance on the weekend and then might make game 2 or game 3. Do you think they'd pick a big squad, sort of like a Kangaroos tour, where they'd have a squad of 30 and they sort of trim it down each game, or what would that look like?
It'd have to be 25 at minimum, yeah. So you'd have to have a couple covering you, because what do they normally run with 19 or 20, and then you got the backup back, you got the backup forward. But then also you're not playing, like you said, you're not playing that next week. So, yeah. You're talking about Origin still, right?
Yeah, definitely. At the back end of the season.
So, I reckon, I just started to second guess myself there. I think they'd have to have at least 25, potentially 20, that extra 3 or whatever.
How good. Well, I reckon that's where we wrap it up, boys. Show and go Wednesday, 27th of April. Shout out to Normie for chipping in a bit of mail, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Thanks, Brother Norms. Yeah, shout out to Norms. Yeah, sweet. Thanks, boys.